Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our session today about building award-winning cultures for the front line. We'll just start in a couple of moments here. We can kick off with an icebreaker though. So tell us in the comments, where are you dialing in from? And also add on something fun you've been up to this summer or something that you're really looking forward to. And while everyone's thinking about their answers, Bob, why don't we start with you? Where are you located and what's something fun?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Uh, as you can see from my background, I don't know if it's familiar to some of you, that is the harbor of Milwaukee. I'm a former journalist who's worked for Energage now remotely for 10 years. Energage is an employee survey company based in suburban Philadelphia. So I've been working remotely before it was cool and again, former journalist who's now uh, knee deep every day in employee survey data and feedback and engagement, and exciting to share that with everyone today.
I love that. And what's something fun that you're looking forward to this summer?
Oh boy. Well, this weekend, I'll be hosting, helping run a youth softball tournament. Been
Fun.
involved in a youth softball club in the Milwaukee area here for more than 10 years, and it's great to see girls get out there and show their athletic stuff. And so yeah, I'll be busy and sweaty this weekend, but looking forward to that.
And I hope the weather holds up for you.
So do I. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm just popping into the chat here. Kate's from Alaska, lots of salmon fishing and hiking. Love that. Jan's from Calgary. Hope you had a good stampede season. Priscilla, Miami, going to Europe for the first time. Love it. Keep sharing, y'all. Jason, how about you? Whereabouts are you located and something fun?
Yeah, I'm calling in from actually Whistler, British Columbia today. And what I'm looking forward to most this summer is I'm actually going to be going on a little vacation with my family in a couple weeks' time here. I'm actually going to be going down to Miami for a handful of days and then popping over to the Bahamas for about a week or so to take the kids swimming. So looking forward to that adventure.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun water sports people in the chat here, Jason, so they can totally relate to that. Tammy's gonna go kayaking the crystal clear rivers, and I think I saw someone, oh, Paula said floating in the pool, which is always such a fun time. So yeah, lots of fun things happening this summer. Thank you for sharing, everyone. Before we dive into the fireside chat, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. So the first one is about the chat box. I know some of you are in it already, but if there's a comment you want to make that you want everyone to see, make sure the blue drop-down box is selected to everyone. Otherwise, it'll just be me, Jason, and Bob seeing your comments. The Q&A box button thing, it'll also be open. So if there's a comment you want us to save for the end, feel free to pop it in there so it doesn't get lost in the chat. Professional development credits will also be shared at the end, and we are also recording this session and we'll send it out over email sometime after the event. Awesome. So now I want to take a moment to set the stage for the topic. And the topic today is, of course, building award-winning culture for the frontline. As we all know, frontline workers keep the world running in our hospitals, warehouses, retail stores, restaurants, transit systems, and every single frontline employee has a direct impact on business imperatives like customer satisfaction, safety, operational success, and ultimately business performance. Building culture for the front line can be very different and very difficult, and it has to hold up across different shifts, different sites, and it's always a really fast-paced environment as well. And so winning a culture award isn't just a badge, it's really proof that you're doing all the hard things well. And we know that many organizations are doing incredible work to support frontline teams. And so that's why we've partnered with Energage to create this culture award just for frontline organizations to recognize all that incredible work. Because at Bucketlist, we're all about that meaningful recognition. We really want to celebrate companies that go above and beyond for their employees. And we know this work really matters to you. And so we're here to cheer you on every step of the way. Before I move on from the slide, Bob and Jason, was there anything you wanted to add about this award?
Well, just I'm excited about our partnership with Bucketlist and excited to share what we do today. And what's really interesting as Jason and I have gotten to know each other, Bucketlist is very much focused on uh, recognition of individual workers for what they do, and Energage is more focused on recognizing employers who have created outstanding work environments. So I feel like what we do goes hand in hand, and this is just a really great opportunity to find ways to shine a spotlight on great workplaces and great people who are making things happen in those workplaces.
Amazing. And I might just briefly add, so today's session, as Becca kicked off with, is building an award-winning culture, and there's kind of two parts of that. They're building a great culture is number one, and number two, it's like you got to apply for an award to be recognized. And on screen is everybody's chance to be rewarded. The reward itself is free to participate. Bob will cover this a bit more detail at the end, but it's a short nomination process. And once you are awarded, there's some great national visibility. And we're so excited to be launching this with Energage. So if you wanted to jump ahead, feel free to scan that QR code and take a peek at the nomination form. But we'll be showing this again at the end. Is that correct, Becca?
Yes, of course.
Amazing. Yeah, so excited. We're so excited about this this partnership and this award.
Amazing. Yes, as you both said, awards are super fun and super well deserved. So hopefully folks will take this chance to nominate. But for today's session, before we get back into that award stuff at the end, we'll be exploring how exactly to build that award-winning culture and get recognized for it. And so this is how we've decided to structure the conversation today. Part one, what makes a culture award-winning? Part two, how to build the culture that will retain talent and hit all your other business goals. And lastly, of course, because we're all about the key metrics here, understanding exactly how the culture awards can drive those business results. And so without further ado, I'd love to introduce the panel. So starting with myself, if we haven't met yet, my name is Rebecca, and I'm the community manager here at Bucketlist, and I'll be the panel moderator today. Bob is the media partnerships director at Energage. He's had a front row seat to countless companies as they've gone through the culture award process. So Bob, you're bringing a wealth of knowledge and lots of practical tips to share, which we're very excited about. Jason is the CEO and founder of Bucketlist Rewards, and you are just such a rewards and recognition expert who's worked with organizations across lots of different industries to build programs that don't just check a box, but looks to drive engagement, retention, and team loyalty. And so, Jason and Bob, I'd love to just pass it off to y'all to share just a tad more about yourselves and the perspective that you're hoping to bring to the conversation today. And then we'll hop into the fireside right after that. So, Bob, I'll kick it off to you.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I've worked for Energage for almost 10 years, have a background in journalism, and where those two things are merged are I work with our media partners nationwide related to our top workplaces awards to make sure that our media partners have everything they need to shine a spotlight on great companies across the United States. We typically survey about 8,000 employers a year to determine top workplaces. It's entirely based on a scientific survey, gathers employee feedback. So top workplaces is an award that it can't be bought. It has to be earned, and it has to be earned every year from companies that survey through us. And as a former journalist, I'm very proud and intrigued by the survey data that we uncover as part of this. And we know that every workplace has a unique culture, but our survey helps capture the strengths behind all those companies and also areas for improvement, which we're always happy to share.
Amazing. Thanks, Bob. Jason, wanted to add a few more words about yourself and your perspective?
Sure, yeah. So over at Bucketlist, we work with over 600 enterprises around North America, many of which have invested a lot into culture and in fact are award-winning cultures. And time and again, the companies that invest in culture and ultimately get these awards outperform their competitors significantly. They have higher growth, better revenue, customer retention. And so I think today's session is going to be awesome because we're going to share some stats, stories. And then just personally, I'm a dad. I got two daughters. I'm super passionate about building teams, about building great quality cultures. And I'm really excited to be here with Bob and Becca to hopefully have everybody walk away with a couple of good takeaways after today's session.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. And because now you know a little bit more about us, we'd love to hear from you and learn more about where you're at, where you're coming from. And your responses will just really help the panel adjust and steer the conversation in a direction that's most helpful to you all that are here today. So I'll just give a few moments for folks to fill in these questions, and then I'll share the results and we can chat about them and move forward into our fireside. I'll stop my screen share for now, though. Awesome. I think it's gone. Perfect. I'll close the poll in a couple seconds here. So get your last minute votes in. 3, 2, 1. All right. Share results. Bob, Jason, can you see the
Yeah.
results here? It looks like biggest challenge when it comes to building frontline culture is making recognition feel consistent and authentic. Um, and so that's actually a question that we're going to cover today. So that's great. Glad to see that. Any surprises here, Bob and Jason, for the responses that folks are giving?
It all feels very familiar. It's interesting. They're all challenges in a way, right? So to me, it just underscores the importance of what each of our organizations do, and to share that and help employers and help people understand how we can elevate what they do and celebrate what companies are doing right, because goodness knows we need reasons to celebrate the good things these days.
Absolutely.
And from my point of view, I'm just excited to dig into some of these issues and to double down on one of Bob's points. It's interesting to see these themes, these trends pop up. Because what I can say is like, number one, I've seen these before. Number two, if you are experiencing these pain points, you're not alone. And more importantly, hopefully we'll be able to share shed some insights on how to overcome any of these challenges you see up on screen.
Amazing. And in the comments, we have some folks sharing as well that the key takeaways they're hoping to get from today is some tips and strategies on making sure their teams get what they need, which is awesome. And as well, I would like my team to know regularly. So making recognition efforts more regular and how to, celebrate wins together, no matter how big or how small. So those are all great indicators of culture. So let's get into our chat today. So let's start today's conversation by diving into what it is that makes culture award-winning. Why does culture matter, especially for the front line? Jason, would you like to kick this one off?
Yeah, so great question, Becca. And you did what I heard you say is like, why does culture matter? There's a really great quote that says, if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers and business. And I think this saying applies really well for frontline workers. So in my experience, your culture is kind of like an unwritten manual for how employees show up at work. And so for your frontline teams, like whether that's like a customer service rep or maybe a sales associate, maybe it's delivery driver, your culture shapes how they treat customers, how they handle problems, how they represent your values when nobody else is watching. Becca, I'm really big into stats, and there's some really interesting stats to back all of this up. So according to Gallup, companies with highly engaged employees see a 21% higher profitability. They see 40% lower turnover. And it can even have a big impact on customer service. Just for example, at Bucketlist, and you probably know this very well, Becca, one of our core values is to care for customers. And like we live this on a daily basis. It's actually resulted in us in having one of the highest customer satisfaction scores in the industry. So values and culture deeply matter. They impact the frontline staff, and they can really move the needle for the whole organization as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Jason. And Bob, what have you seen? What have frontline companies been telling you about this? Why culture matters?
Well, one thing that we talk about with companies, every organization has a culture. It's a question of, is your culture accidental or is it purposeful? And we believe strongly that the best organizations have a vision for what they want their culture to be and how they want to get there. Doesn't mean every workplace environment is the same, but there are common threads where people feel valued, supported, appreciated. There's a sense of trust. There's a sense that everybody is moving in the same direction. There's faith in leadership. And uh, we just want to make sure that we're doing our part helping companies identify all those things and really adding third-party validation. I know companies are probably always assessing employee sentiment, but we feel like we can bring some third-party perspective and some independent expertise through our scientific survey feedback to show companies whether they're heading in the right direction.
I'm hearing you say, validation, scientific, evidence-based data and all that. And so when you do look at the data behind folks who are winning these awards, what trends or patterns emerge, Bob? Like, what are they doing differently? What are some qualities that you see across the board that folks?
Yeah. Well, first off, top workplaces are very good at listening. I'm sure everybody who's here today comes from a wide variety of sectors, all sorts of different job types. But one thing that we know is that top workplaces are very good at listening and are open to listening. They want the feedback. They see the value of the feedback, and they know that frontline workers uh, probably know more what's going on in the company than maybe a lot of leaders do. That frontline workers are the conduit to understanding uh, the job environment, the work environment, understanding customers. And so having a people first culture where listening is practiced is hugely important.
Do you have a story you would like to share about the power of listening and how that's sort of, I believe you told me a story before about a company you're working with was doing some surveying and then some data around benefits was showing up. And so,
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm happy to share that. So, a while back, I was talking with a company that is very good at just what talking about here, very good at listening, gathering that feedback. And when they got their survey results, they saw that sentiment around company benefits was kind of low, lower than they would have expected. And this surprised them because they knew compared to their peers, they were offering a very solid benefits package across the board. So what they realized was they needed to do a better job of educating employees about their benefits, of all the different types of benefits and how to take advantage of those. So they dedicated themselves for the next year to do more education around all the elements of benefits. They surveyed a year later, and guess what? Benefit scores were way up, right? And in the meantime, they hadn't actually spent extra dollars on benefits. They just talked more about them and empowered people to use them and understand them. And so to me, it underscores the power of listening and putting the feedback into action. And this is a company that was much better served and where they were really strengthened by acting on that employee feedback.
I love how they just really took the time to, listen and look for the root cause of the problem instead of just, throwing more money to, oh, people don't think we have enough
Right, right.
money.
It's listening, making sure you understand what you've heard, and then putting that into action and telling people, here, we have heard you, here's what we're doing about it. That's an incredibly powerful gesture within an organization because it makes everyone, whether you're a new employee or a veteran employee, it makes everyone feel like they have something to offer and that they're contributing to the greater good. Because that's what, everybody wants, that feeling that I am making a difference. I am part of something bigger than me, and we're all working hard to take what we do to the next level.
Amazing. So for you, Bob, it sounds like the quality that you consistently see across the board in award-winning cultures are ones that listen, which is very powerful.
Really good at, yeah, listen and don't be afraid to listen. There might be some folks here who work for companies that are like, oh, we've got some issues. I don't know how we would do on survey feedback. I think companies need to be unafraid of capturing that feedback and understand that if you haven't done a scientific survey before, um, it's so important to establish a baseline, a benchmark. Where are we at now, right? Where are we at? Where do we want to go? Well, we've got to look at what are the areas where we're doing well and what are the areas where there's plenty of room for improvement.
No, totally. And Jason, I'd love to ask that as a follow-up question for
Yeah.
you. So Bob says listening is one of the most important qualities. And so for you, what are some key qualities that you've seen in companies that have won culture awards? And perhaps we can also incorporate Diane's questions in the chat to hear too. What is the first key step to improve the company culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bob actually made a great point that listening, my 2 cents, like what I heard you say is listening is super important. And I actually think listening is a superpower. And surveying your staff probably would be one of the first steps to understand what your company is doing well and areas that could be improved. But I have like some broader context I could share as well. So at Bucketlist, we work a lot with award-winning cultures. And Bucketlist has also been recognized as one of the top 50 best workplaces in the country. And we've actually developed an acronym for what award-winning cultures do, what great cultures do. And the acronym is VIP. And so the V stands for vision and values. So a lot of companies don't have a vision, or if they do, your team might not even know about it. But award-winning cultures build like a really compelling vision. They have well-defined values understood by the whole organization. And for example, at our company, we have something called the painted picture. Feel free to Google that phrase, painted picture. It's this whole framework on how to build a really compelling pitch, really compelling vision that gets people excited, that pulls them into the future. The I in VIP stands for invest in growth. Basically, this means it's really important to provide opportunities for professional development. Whether you're a fan of Tony Robbins or not, he has this great saying that progress, a sense of progress, is one of the leading indicators of happiness. So if you can invest in people's growth, that'll lead to happiness, which ultimately leads to higher employee engagement. And so, for example, over at Home Depot, they do a really great job at investing in growth. They offer tons of training for frontline workers. They provide leadership development. They even offer competitive compensation and benefits. And the P in VIP stands for promote open communication. So I think it's really important that leaders provide honest and regular feedback to their employees. And just for example, Whole Foods does a good job of this. They even share their financial information and key metrics across a whole team Traditionally, those are held quite close in a lot of organizations, just with the senior leadership team. But Whole Foods, they share their financial information, their KPIs across the organization. They also hold meetings at the store level to get feedback from the front line. So communication is a full loop. It's not just pushing out transparent communication, but it's going back to Bob's initial point of listening. So to summarize, VIP stands for vision, invest in growth, and promote open communication. We've had a lot of success with this, and we've seen a lot of other companies succeed with that as well.
Amazing. Great answer. Thank you so much, Jason.
No problem.
So with that, let's move into part two, where we want to talk about how to actually build those award-winning cultures, because there are a lot of different culture levers, different things we can work on to improve culture overall. But today, just based on the expertise on the panel, we'll be focusing on employee feedback and recognition as the two levers. And so broadly, we can start broadly first. Bob, what role would you say employee surveys, I can't speak today, clearly, employee surveys play in culture building?
Yeah, we're really proud of the fact that the Top Workplaces Award is based 100% on employee survey feedback. It's not an award that can be bought. It has to be earned. So our survey, and I see one of the chat questions here is asking what questions are asked to surface all this insight, and I'm happy to share that. But our survey is pretty succinct. It's 25 questions. We ask people to respond to issues around values and pay and benefits and employee well-being, and how do employees feel about their leadership? Do they feel appreciated? Do they find meaningfulness in their work? And then there are questions around engagement, like do you feel like you're empowered to give your very best at work? Would you recommend others to come work for your organization? Uh, uh, and have you been looking for work elsewhere? That's a really big indicator, right? Like every employer should want to know what, what's the mood of the company. So all of the information that we gather is secure, it's anonymous. The feedback that we share with companies is aggregated, so there's no identifiable information. And again, we just feel strongly that the best judges of whether an employer is creating a strong work environment is to listen to the people.
Amazing. And we all know that, surveys, the point of doing them, we want to see what it is that people care about the most. And so how have you seen companies put that feedback into action?
Yeah, like the example I gave you about the company and their benefits is, I think, just it encapsulates. It's not all about spending, right? It's not about just throwing dollars after something. It's about being smarter, right? And it's about doing things better and bringing people together and letting them do what they do best. And I think the act of listening and then following up on what you've heard is maybe the ultimate sign of respect for workers, right? That workers aren't just going through the motions, they're not punching a clock. Workers are passionate about doing things right, serving their customer base, serving their constituents, and everybody needs to be sort of rowing in the same direction to make the most of that.
That kind of goes back to Meredith's point about wondering, like doing that self-reflection on whether the questions we're asking are self-serving or more for like the greater good, if you will.
Right.
And so when you're talking about making sure that the intention is to be able to take the feedback and do something with it, I feel
Yeah.
gauge for whether or not something is.
Yeah, right. And let's be honest about those questions. Let's not dance around, the challenging things. Go right at it, right? Because that's the only way you're going to truly assess where things are at, and it's the only basis by which you're going to be able to improve.
Amazing. And I just want to ask one more question, follow-up question here before we move on. So for Jason, I know that you as a CEO receive a lot of feedback. And so when you're faced with this mountain of things that you could take into consideration, what advice would you give leaders trying to, prioritize and decide which things to do first?
Yeah, I mean, again, really good question, Becca. I think there's the question's kind of got two components: how to prioritize, and then how to respond to feedback. So I really love organized surveys, and we do two surveys here. We do more of a full employee engagement survey once per year, and we also do an employee net promoter score survey once per year. So we do two surveys one survey every 6 months. And Becca, as you know, we just completed our ENPS not too long ago. And so the way we prioritize feedback is we look for themes, first of all. So we send out the survey. We really want a high participation rate. If Bob would have better stats on this, but if you have 1 in 10 employees responding to a survey, that's not good. If you have 80, 90% of staff participating, that's great because it'll truly represent their what's working well and what's not working. So we send out these surveys. We push hard for a really high participation rate. And then when we get the surveys back, we organize it into key themes. And once you have the information organized, what we do is, I think number one, as Bob said, you don't have to fix everything, but I think it's critical for employees to know that you've read the results and that more importantly, you've listened to them. I was given the advice by a senior HR leader a while ago that one of the number one ways you can break trust with employees is if you ignore their feedback. It's like being on a date with somebody you really care about. They're opening up their heart to you, and you're looking at your phone, right? Like that's not a good way to build a relationship. So when it comes to collecting the survey feedback, we actually have a three-step process. So the first step is we review all the feedback, actually at the executive leadership team, and we do it really transparently. As a part of the reviewing feedback, it's important to celebrate wins. A lot of leaders race past all the good stuff happening in an organization and just look at what's wrong. And I see
Right.
Bob laughing. I'm pretty sure he's experienced that before. But then, of course, you celebrate the wins, but you also have to review the constructive feedback and build some strategies on how to address these challenges. And that leads to the second step, which is building an action plan. So typically this is led by the HR team at Bucketlist. For example, they build out a first draft, they get a bunch of feedback from different stakeholders, different team members. And then that leads to the third step, which is communicating the results back to the team. And so some issues just require communication, as Bob said, and some issues do need to be fixed. It's so funny, sometimes you might have a low. I remember going back, I built a few different companies. In the last company I built, we ran a really short employee pulse score, and we kind of had a low score. And at the time, the executive team got together and were like, "Why are we getting a low score on our feedback? Like, why are employees upset? Is it pay? Is it benefits?" And we send a follow-up survey asking why people were upset. And it turns out that a lot of the people on the customer success team had old chairs, and the chairs were broken or uncomfortable. And it was kind of a face palm moment. I was like, what the hell? Like, are you serious? And so what did we do? We got new chairs for everybody. And, 6 months later, we surveyed them again. And the satisfaction scores went way up. The chair story is important because it's going back to one of the earlier questions in the chat window is like, where do you get started with building a good culture? Like, you just got to ask people, I would try to avoid guesswork wherever possible. You have to ask people, you have to listen, and then you have to take action on that feedback.
Yeah, and I just so many good points there, Jason. I think part of having a systematic scientific survey is to ensure inclusiveness, right? You're not just listening to a few people here or there. You're asking everybody. The other thing I wanted to add is we really feel like it's so important. I'm going to continue to talk about listening, but to communicate what you've heard and to act on what you've heard. Because in some ways, just listening, just getting the feedback and then seemingly doing nothing with it is in a way worse than not asking at all, because people feel like their time has been wasted and that their input has been wasted. Um, so yeah, really great points, Jason.
Amazing. I love all this conversation around inclusivity, getting feedback. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the role that recognition itself plays in building these award-winning cultures. So Jason, on an individual level, what makes what role does recognition play in award-winning cultures?
Yeah, so I'll share my perspective on this. From my point of view, recognition is one of the most impactful leadership levers you can implement to build a great culture, but it doesn't stand alone in isolation. Like a good culture is built on a bunch of different dimensions. And if you go and Google culture models, you'll find a bunch of them out there. Some say there's kind of 4 pillars. Some will say there's like 12 pillars to building a great culture. But in all the models, recognition is a key pillar to building a great program. And so ways to like roll out recognition and to make it easy and accessible. I think it's often important to kind of train people, especially frontline workers, on how to do it. And there's a few quick tips on how to do that. First, when it comes to recognition, you want to be really specific. You want to tell a micro story. So the best recognition is really detailed. It says what the person did, how it made a difference and why it mattered. It's also really important to tie it to values. When recognition is grounded in company values, your employees will feel more connected to the mission, vision, values of the organization. And statistically, you can lift employee engagement by as much as 25% by recognizing staff for living the values. And then, really importantly, do recognize your staff frequently. You don't worry about making it perfect. So, a lot of leaders will hold back recognition because they want to get the wording just right. But frequency matters a lot more than perfection. In terms of frequency and statistically, most employees want to be recognized either weekly or monthly. There's a bunch of surveys that have been sent out to staff, and most employees are recognized yearly, right? So there's a huge disconnect between what happens in reality and what employees want. So there's a couple of quick tips people could implement in their organization.
Love that. That really helps make it feel, really accessible and authentic across the board. Bob, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I just love hearing every time I hear more about what Bucket List does. It's just so exciting and energizing. Energage, through the Top Workplaces Award, is in the recognition business, whereas Bucket List empowers organizations to recognize individuals. Our Top Workplaces Award is more focused on recognizing the employer. And we always say people want to do business with top workplaces and people want to work for top workplaces. It is a magnet. So by earning top workplaces recognition through our survey process, you earn the right to use a badge that you can display. And it's literally a visible recognition that you've gone through this third party process to earn the right to call yourself a top workplace. And we're so proud. As I travel around the country, I see, our Top Workplaces logo on doors and windows and sides of buildings, and companies get excited and they put it on their company swag. And there's just so many ways to visibly share that, hey, we're good and we know we're good and we've done the things to make ourselves a people first workplace. And so recognizing that in a very visible way is so important.
Amazing. And Frederic and Meredith, I do see your comments in the chat. I think it's a really great discussion for part 3. So I will put a bit on that and we'll ask one last question in this part before moving on. So really quickly, we know that leadership alignment, it just really helps, make or break those culture efforts, whether it's recognition or doing those employee feedback surveys. And so how have you seen, the both of you, how have you seen organizations get their supervisors or middle management involved so that both those pieces are succeeding in an organization? I'll let, I guess, up for grabs. Who wants to go first?
Well, Jason probably has more experience in this, but I'll just say, middle managers are the glue that holds everything together. So critically important to communicating. we through our survey process, we measure communication top down and bottom up because they're both important. And managers are so critical to making sure that communication is flowing both ways.
Cool. And I guess your question, Becca, was to how do you make sure culture flows through the entire organization? Is that kind of the intent?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I mean, culture building initiatives and recognition, for example, specifically, I think it's important to like educate your team. I kind of start with the why. So before rolling out any new program, it's important to sell it to your leaders and let them know the impact it can have inside of the organization. And then training always matters, right? Like giving people training on how to roll out a recognition program and then weaving it into some sort of regular rhythm. So as I mentioned earlier, like recognition can't be like a someday task. It needs to be built into existing routines. Some things I've seen done really well is like weaving it into regular all hands meetings, whether it's like a fireside chat or huddles. Just start those sessions with good news or maybe a shout out section. Um, Asking managers to recognize at least one person per week, and then even including recognition in weekly one-to-ones between managers, leaders, and their team members are great ways to make the program quickly get traction and to get people excited and to make them feel appreciated.
No, I love that. I've seen so many cool things over the years, like to your point about education. I saw customers do like a benefits of gratitude announcement campaign just to like educate people on why it's important to hopefully get people to do it more. I've also seen companies put in, company-wide awards to get people hyped up and get all the levels in really like into it, right? Like there's legacy awards where people just really honor the lasting impact that folks who've been there prior have made. And, 30 years later, they're still giving this award in, Sarah Kelly's name or whatnot, just to recognize the great legacy that they've left behind. I've also seen really fun like superlative awards contests, like, oh, everyone throw in your vote. Who's most likely to make your day better? Most likely to teach me something new? Just to your point, Jason, about building those habits, just it can be really fun too, just exercising that muscle of like recognition and making it really easy for everyone to think of someone that they want to recognize and just continually building onto that culture.
Yeah, awesome stories, Becca. Really good examples.
Thanks. All right, now we'll quickly move into the last part before we head into wrap up because we did get some Q&A questions that we really want to get to, so we'll dive on in. And so the last part is about understanding how culture awards can really help drive those business results. And I think Meredith and Frederick's comments will really just hone everything home here. But definitely in a time when we're all being called on to do more with less, it's really strategic to approach awards as something that's larger than just like a trophy on the wall. We can totally dive into how they can impact business goals and how to do it correctly so that you're measuring everything from beginning to end. You can say exactly what impact it's had. So, Bob, I thought it would be good to start with you. What kind of business impact have you seen from organizations that earn top workplace recognition?
Yeah, just to echo what Jason mentioned earlier, we see the same data that top workplaces outperform average companies. We even have a stock index that looks at publicly traded top workplaces and how they outperform the market. Um, it's just no surprise that when you harness the power of people and you're moving in the same direction and you're solving problems together, the results are going to be better. And the other part of this that is so critically important, especially for all the folks in HR out there, is just the importance of reducing turnover. The incredible cost of hiring and retaining talent. And if you are struggling with that, um, it's just so hard. So knowing that you're in an organization that values talent, that is focused on finding people who will fit within your culture and then keeping them long term. How do you keep them? You show appreciation, right? You show that they matter. And so in terms of outperforming with business results and outperforming with hiring and retention, those are massive differentiators in the marketplace.
And Bob, would you be able to touch a bit on Meredith's comment where how can we track from the beginning to see the changes that are being made and able to speak about it afterward?
Sure, that's easy, and I won't go into the weeds about our internal system, but we track things through positivity. Our core survey that we administer at Energage as the basis for the Top Workplaces Award is 25 questions. Um, the answers are on a 7-point scale, and we track the positivity responses over time. It's very easy to see what areas have grown more positive or less positive over time. So that's the again, without getting too deep in the weeds, that's how we track.
Amazing. And of course, because we're getting all this momentum from doing the surveying, getting the awards, the the point obviously is to have it become really sustainable, and we don't want the culture progress to stop. And so, how do we keep the momentum going even after winning an award? And Jason, I'll toss
Mhm.
this one to you first.
I mean, said really simply, we as I mentioned before, our at bucket list, we actually survey the team twice per year. Normally, what we do each year is we set new benchmarks and we try to continually improve our score year over year. We don't always achieve that, but for out of the last 4 years, 3 out of the last 4 years, we've actually had improvements to our score year over year. Once in a while, the score will dip, and there's probably really legitimate reasons why for that. But to answer your question, Becca, like we use it as a benchmark, and we actually weave it into our annual planning sessions. Like one of our annual OKRs is typically around people and culture, and one of our OKRs is to improve that key metric from one year to the next.
So I'm hearing as well, maybe having it, if it's something so important to you, if culture is so important, having it as some sort of OKR that the company is working towards. So we're
Yeah.
making sure shining a spotlight on that effort.
100%, yeah. And you know what? I'd love to share a short story as well on a slightly different question you asked earlier, which is around what's the impact of becoming a top workplace. And it's not just a matter of looking good on a website, but what is a true impact? I had a super funny experience. I'm a part of a few different CEO groups. I have a CEO friend who runs a similar company to Bucketlist, and we compete in the same geography in the same markets. Bucketlist happens to have some awards, some badges. We also have like a higher Glassdoor score, a bunch. Sort of, we have a better culture fundamentally. He's a good CEO. He has a good organization. We just have better stats, better results. And when we post jobs, we sometimes compare the results. We get about twice as many applicants. We get better quality applicants, and we also get way more referrals. And so, like unequivocally, like without any doubt, it's so interesting to see the impact of building a great culture, number one, and then number two, getting awarded for it, and the impact that can have on the quality of candidates who come to the organization and the number of referrals we get. It makes my life way easier, and the people and culture team makes their job way easier as well.
Amazing. Those, I love how you share a couple of things that are just things that we can definitely track and over time see what the numbers are and then benchmark it against what others in the industry are seeing as well to see how truly this is impact winning an award is impacting our culture. Because it's just like an indicator of a job well done, really, for getting an award.
100%. Yeah.
Becca, I just wanted to add, for us at Energage, we love honoring companies with the Top Workplaces Award, but we always say that earning that award is validation of employee survey feedback, but the award itself is not an end; it's just a beginning. So there's sort of three areas that we emphasize. Number one is to celebrate. Find a reason to celebrate. There's not enough celebration of the good things that go on in organizations. And Jason pointed out it's so easy for any of us to focus to bypass the good things and focus on the bad, but find reasons to celebrate. What are you doing right? And what are you doing maybe better than the industry average, right? And celebrate those things. Find a reason to celebrate because it can be a powerful morale boost that people will remember. The second thing is, as I referenced before, make sure the world knows you are a top workplace. You know, display that badge, announce to everyone through your hiring channels, through your uh, new business development channels that you are a top workplace. Because it's great for new business and it's great for hiring and retention. And then thirdly, put those survey results to use. As much as we love the recognition part of what we do, that's not enough. You need to get elbow deep in the survey results that you've gotten based on your employee feedback. So to look at those and say, we're doing these things well, celebrate these things over here. We've got some work to do. How are we going to tackle these? How are we going to communicate that we're working on these things? What's our timeline for seeing improvement in these areas? So celebrating awareness and just taking meaningful steps to put the survey data to work, all critically important to moving forward.
Amazing. Thanks for those thoughts, Bob and Jason. I know we're almost at the end now, so I want to wrap up this section of the fireside chat with one last rapid fire final reflections question that everyone can take 1 or 2 points away. So, if you could give one piece of advice to someone, a leader who's looking to apply for awards, what would it be? Jason, would you like to go first?
I mean, this is sorry. That's a beautiful slash layup question, Becca. We started off the session with an opportunity to win award to be a top workplace for frontline employers. I would start by, as Bob said, be just a little bit brave. Nominate yourself for this award. No matter what, I think you're going to get some great feedback, and there's also probably a great chance you'll be awarded as well. So the first step would just be to go through the process and nominate yourself.
Love that,
Yeah,
Jason. It ties in well to Kayla's comment above, where she's doing the first ever company-wide survey and actually gotten a lot of meaningful results just doing it, and might be surprised by what people come back with, which is a good
awesome.
story, Kayla. Thank you for sharing. All right, Bob, over.
Yeah. I agree with what Jason said. Be brave, don't be afraid. There's lots of reasons to lots of excuses for why you might be worried about the feedback. Be unafraid and also don't be humble. If you feel like things are going right, then measure it and brag about it because you've earned the right to do that. Um, uh, I guess that's that's the other side of the coin. Like it's okay to say we're awesome. Here's how we're awesome. Here's why we're awesome, and we're gonna get more awesome.
I love that, Bob. That's a really great way to end this conversation. So thank you both. I'm going to now share a poll. We're just always looking for ways to improve the webinar programming, so I'd love to hear your feedback. So let me know your thoughts on these 2 questions, and also please drop in chat if there's a topic you'd like to see us cover in the upcoming months. Let me know. I would love to be able to fulfill the wishes of the community. So appreciate any sort of feedback that you have. All right, I'm gonna go back and share my screen. We have about 6 minutes left, so Jason and Bob, we will zip through it. I would like to now just give Jason and Bob both a bit of time to share about the important work that they're doing. We'll do it really quickly because I think we've covered some before, so we'll just try to do some stuff that's not overlapping from before. So, Bob, I will let you talk about more about what Energage is doing and how folks might get involved.
Yeah, we survey people about their employee experience in the workplace. That's all we survey about. We don't survey about politics or anything else. It's all about the workplace experience. We've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and we take a lot of pride in our mission of making the world a better place to work together.
Awesome. And here's the slide again if either of you wanted to touch base briefly on the award.
Bob, any further words on this? I felt like I said gave it a little context up front, but anything in front
Yeah,
of you?
no, it's our process is simple. Nominate your organization. Someone from Energage will reach out to you to talk about next steps. It's really all about setting up and executing the employee survey process, which we make really easy to do. There's no cost to survey with us. You can be honored as a top workplace. And so we really just welcome the chance to show more people the power of the survey insights and the power of recognition.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, Jason, I'll quickly pass it over to you. Say a few words about bucket list.
Yeah, if I was to switch gears a little bit today, we talked a bit about culture building, but if I was to put on my seat more of a formal CEO hat, I'd love to share just a little bit more about Bucketlist Rewards. So fundamentally, Bucketlist is a rewards and recognition platform, and we help companies build great cultures. We help companies take great care of their staff, and when you do those two things, it can have a huge impact to your bottom line. So up top it says recognition drives results, and we can absolutely do that at Bucket List. We actually guarantee it. We guarantee that we can lower turnover or drive up employee engagement. And if we don't, you get the platform for free. And just two quick examples: we worked with a leading healthcare company called Home Instead, helped them roll out an enterprise rewards and recognition platform. And as I mentioned earlier on, like when you take good care of staff, we can lower turnover. And in their case, we lower turnover by more than 40%. We rolled out a peer-to-peer recognition system. We rolled out a manager spot bonus program, did a bunch of cool stuff for them. And it had a huge impact. And when you lower turnover by that much, especially in the front line, it saves millions of dollars. And then in the second case, we worked with an organization called First Bank. They rolled out a recognition program. They have about 90% of staff participating in the program every month. So just some outstanding results there as well. So if you want to learn more about Bucket List, there's a little poll quiz window that Becca put up on screen where you can request a demo. We'd be happy to show you how the platform works. We're also happy to share tips and best practices on how to implement a program like this.
Thanks, Jason.